There was a significant change in 2025 involving digital assets, including cryptocurrency. The IRS is rolling out a new form for 2025 tax year. You'll start 2025 tax year. You'll start getting these in 2026. And it's the form 1099-DA, 1099 digital assets. It's designed to bring crypto into the same reporting system as stocks. But the way most people hold and use digital assets was going to make these forms very inaccurate by default. If you don't fix it, if you're not ready to fix it, you could actually be taxed on gains you never actually made. So these forms are going to be issued by U.S. exchanges, brokers, and digital asset platforms. There's a bit of a fight for a while where Wallet's going to have to do this, etc. And no, they're not going to. But things like Coinbase, CoinEx, etc. are going to have to do these. They're going to have to report your gross proceeds from crypto sales. They're going to have to report your cost basis if they have it. They can report transactions from one cryptocurrency to another, and eventually those are going to be required, but don't expect much of that in 2025. And they're going to send a copy of this to the IRS, whether these numbers are right or not. So on paper, this functions very much like the 1099-B that you may get from your stockbroker. It says, okay, he had this stock, he bought it for this much, he sold it for this much. Here's the increase in value. Here's basically the capital gain. And for people who buy on Coinbase, keep it on Coinbase, sell it on Coinbase, and especially trade all on one of these platforms, it is going to be a godsend. It's going to make your taxes a lot easier. But in practice, the crypto world doesn't work like traditional finance. And that's because crypto is portable. Not your key is not your coin. So you may buy it on a platform, but you probably move it to a wallet. You may trade it on chain. You may send it to another thing. You may turn it into another currency and another currency and another currency, and then sell it years later. And so most exchanges are going to have no idea what your cost basis is unless it was on the exchange the entire time. And so what most of these reports are going to say you have a $0 basis, and whatever you traded that cryptocurrency for is going to show up as a 100% capital gain. In addition, they're not necessarily going to know whether it's a short-term or a long-term gain. Now, the IRS is going to see this form and assume you owe taxes on that whole sale amount. And unless you correct it, they get to assume it's accurate. So what happened when it's wrong? It's your job to prove it's wrong, and that is not going to be easy. Um, so for example, let's just take a case. Alex buys $1,000 of Bitcoin in 2017 and never touched it, except he moved it off of Coinbase, he put it on his wallet, and then in 2025 he sends it back to Coinbase and he uh, sells it, $1,000 say. Coinbase is going to issue that 1099 reporting the proceeds of $10,000. And since they don't know the cost basis, they're going to leave it blank or report $0. Either way, the IRS is going to think he made a $10,000 profit, not a $9,000 profit. And on capital gains, that's going to be a difference of 200 to 150 to maybe $250. Even worse, if they think it's a short-term gain, now maybe they may think he owes 35, 37% on that whole $10,000 instead of the probably 15 or 20% he really does. Um, so you can see how this can get very, very, very complicated very quickly. Now, you can't actually correct the 1099-DA, but what you can is report the accurate info. It's a different tax form. It's form 8949, and this is where you report where a 1099 has the wrong cost basis on it. So you fill out this form, but you need to send in records. Um, things like maybe CSVs showing all the different transactions, your wallet transfers, your purchase confirmations. You maybe even will need to use a blockchain explorer to show which coins were yours. If you have a lot of transactions in that time or you're dollar cost averaging, so you have a lot of different bases, definitely use some sort of crypto tax software like coin tracking or Coinly to rebuild your basis and track the assets across the wallets. Um, and it's your responsibility to prove your basis. If you can't prove it, the IRS gets to assume the 1099 DA is correct, and it's either zero or unknown, in which case it's zero. So I assume in 2026, basically every 1099 DA is going to be wrong, with the exception of people who have been doing everything on exchange and never moved it off. Um, Same thing for tax year 2026 and 2027. It's going to be bad. Now, there are rules where eventually these companies are supposed to start contacting you and get the information from you about the basis before they report it to the IRS. And that'll be easier because then you'll just need to convince Coinbase or whatever of the numbers and not correct the wrong number in the IRS system. But this is going to be a problem. The IRS is going to send out a lot of letters to a lot of people saying you owe a lot of taxes, and they're not going to accept all of these changes in forms. So, be ready for mistakes, and frankly, be ready to overpay the taxes you legally owe because you can't prove what they are. For this reason, I would be especially careful in 2025 and 2026 about selling for cash if you can avoid it. And of course, the market's down recently, so hopefully, if you needed to sell it, you sold it a month ago and aren't selling it now. But if you do need to sell for cash, do your best to do it something you can track easily. Make sure you can prove your basis on it so that when the IRS comes after you for those taxes, you're at least not overpaying what you owe. If you want to consult with me on this or just about any topic on saving money on your taxes, whether you're a high earning W-2 employee or a business owner or a crypto trader, please reach out to me at agoristaxadvice.com/TSP. I now give out my full Agorist tax toolkit. It's a number of useful tools and documents to help you save money, trackers, spreadsheets, and documents. You'll also get a link to schedule a call with me and see if we can work together long term. Thanks and have a great day.